What's up, guys? Brady Figuel here, coming at you with a review for the new In Mourning record, The Immortal, released last Friday, August 29th. Let me know if you agree with this, but I feel like 2025 has been somewhat of a slow year for melodic death metal. I mean, we had the Halo effect early on in the year, which was great. I did a positive review on that album, but after that, there really hasn't been a whole lot, at least for me. But it's very possible that I've missed some stuff, granted. I guess comment below if I have. But when I discovered this band, who are from Sweden, who have been around for almost 20 years and managed to fly under my radar, and who also, at least from what I'm hearing, seem to be incorporating a good amount of progressive and adventurous elements into the mellow death sound, I was very intrigued to check this album out. And kind of to that extent, I have to single out that the greatest thing about this record as a whole is just its mood overall, because while probably the majority of melodic death metal could be classified as positive sounding and triumphant, this album is like, I don't want to say anything but that because it has its moments, but this is a really depressing album. Which, I mean, the band's name, In Mourning, is pretty fitting of that adjective. But don't be fooled. I mean that in a very, very positive way. And also going off of that, one thing that this album does really well is it brings in a lot of different corners of extreme metal alongside it. Like the track Staghorn takes on somewhat of a thrash metal feel at parts. One of my favorite riffs on the album comes in at around the 2:30 mark. I love that groove. And the drums do like that really cool kind of unconventional setting behind it that gives it even more character. Several of the tracks pretty wholeheartedly embrace black metal at times, like that kind of mournful tremolo guitar melody in the first proper track on here, Silver Crescent. Also, some of the tremolo guitar parts on the masterful closer, The Hounding, do that quite a bit as well. The Sojourner in its main riff kind of has these spliced in, blackened type chords in its main riff, like I just said. And most prominently, the band's use of clean vocals, which are done in such amazing ways on this record. They're so prominent. I think they actually appear in every song in some point or another in some way. But here's the key. It always feels authentic. There's not a single moment on this record, period, but in particular with the clean vocals, where it feels like the band is trying to get on the radio or trying to get on the shelves at Hot Topic or something. I really respect how the band shows absolutely no trepidation as far as throwing clean vocals in all their songs. And as a result, these songs really do feel that much more natural. And it feels like the clean vocals were all done in the right spots at the right times to push those emotions forward that they were written to. Most notably, the really tuneful ballad on here, Moonless Sky. It's like smack dab right in the middle of the track list, too. And the clean vocals on this song, they're so soulful, and like the song overall it's so pleasant to listen to. My only complaint is that it's a little bit short. I think with these ideas, they actually could have extended the song a bit further and built upon it a little more. So I guess maybe that's one instance that I feel like they weren't fleshed out enough, but in general, I think they're used to a T on this album, the clean vocals. A lot of times they kind of represent like almost a chorus section in the song, if you will, on songs like The Sojourner and Silver Crescent and Staghorn. Although instead of being like this shining part of the song, it actually kind of ends up being the most downtrodden and the most like somber part of the song in a way. Also, North Star is a song that is very, very clean vocal driven, despite it not really sacrificing the instrumental heaviness, if you will. I mean, you got that dramatic main riff with those really bright guitar leads over it. The bridge is super fucking heavy, and then at the end of the song, the screams do come in. I just really enjoy how the band really does crank up the melodic aspect in melodic death metal, which I feel like some bands are maybe a little too nervous to do. Like when I say that, I instantly think Arch Enemy, who Alyssa White-Gluz, their current vocalist, is such an awesome clean singer, but despite her being in the band for 4 albums now, the band has hardly used her clean vocals in their music, and I feel like there's a lot of missed opportunities there. Although somewhat ironically, the one song off of their new record that I really didn't like was the song with fully clean vocals in it. But I think that's just a case of me being picky and not actually whether or not they should use more clean vocals. I think they could really take some notes for what In Mourning does on this record with the clean vocals, because it really always does feel like the smart and just the right choice as far as the vocal style. Some of these clean vocal moments I think just wouldn't sound very natural if the band saw fit to just scream over everything. I think one criticism that does come to mind that I could give this album is that some of these songs do feel like they fall into similar structures, in a sense that there's multiple tracks on here where near the end you kind of get like a come down, like a clean guitar break, and then it explodes back into these climactic and these more full sounding sections to close out the song. That's a good formula, and the band really does use that well, but the problem is when you're listening to this album sequentially all the way through, and you kind of notice that throughout each song, by the time you get to some of the last tracks on here that do that, it just doesn't quite hit as hard. And it becomes a little bit too predictable. Like on the Sojourner, for instance, after you've been hit with a few tracks that utilize that formula, by the time you get into that melodic part and the music kicks back in, it's kind of like, okay, I saw that coming. It doesn't have the same effect, unfortunately, when it's used so many times. Luckily, that's something that doesn't really impact the tracks on an individual level, but as a full album listener, I did kind of wince at that a little bit, I will say. Like even despite that, the Sojourner ends up being one of my favorite tracks on the whole album, just with its nasty main riff, with, like I said, those kind of blackened bites just like spliced in. It's got an awesome chorus, and the way those really tuneful lead guitars close out the song with kind of like that hint of the main riff entwined within it is just awesome. My favorite song on the record is without a doubt the first proper track on here, like I mentioned, Silver Crescent. I mean, right out of the gates with that just stomping bottom-heavy intro riff, it already proves to you first thing into the album that this isn't just your typical mellow death release if you like In Flames' Jester Race or At the Gates. Again, I love the blackened influence in this song and those tremolo riffs. The lead guitars overall in this song they groan the entire time. Again, the clean vocals in this song are amazing. The track has this ripping guitar solo that I think is awesome. It's an absolutely haunting song. I also really like the following track 3 on here, Song of the Cranes. With this one, it's a little different because in its mood, the song's a lot more dynamic. There are certain parts in here that are eerie sounding and almost evil and blackened, like I said, in other parts of this record. There's some melodies that are a bit more triumphant, but also have this hint of mournfulness underneath them as well. Once again, it has that come down into the clean guitar break before it launches back into that epic outro. I really enjoy how this track can touch on all of those different moods, but still feel like one cohesive unit of a song. It never feels like it's pieced together or like it's two songs in one. And the result is an appropriate feeling of almost like you're on this emotional roller coaster. And then there's the epic closer on here, the Hounding, which manages to pretty much like fully flesh out every single element that I love about this record. Just again, right out of the gates with that really saturated, full sounding synth intro that leads into those just massive guitar leads. You got the blackened influence creeping in at parts again. You got those grinding triplet verses that have this really great chug to it. You got that prog influence midsection that I think is awesome. And then there's that fittingly triumphant outro that sends the album off really on an epic note. The song may be a little bit long, I will admit. Like, I do like this song through and through, but I don't think it needed to be 8+ minutes. I think they could have made all these similar points in maybe a 5 to 6 minute track. And if I had to single out one song on here that I don't think adds a whole lot to the record, it's got to be track 4, As Long as the Twilight Stays. Part of that might just have to do with that it follows up probably my 2 favorite songs on the record. But in the full album context, it doesn't really feel like it's bringing a whole lot to the table. This is one of those songs where that formula of quiet break into epic outro feels a little bit stale. And in general, the guitars feel like they're really, really carrying this song. And I don't think there is a whole lot of interesting ideas going on outside of the guitars. But to that note, the guitar work on this song is still great. At the 3:38 mark, you get these exotic lead sections that shift the mood of the song, which overall is a bit more bright into like this chaotic frenzy. I thought that was cool. But overall, I haven't really returned to that song all that much. And there's the intro track, the Immortal, the title track, which is just a full-on ambient intro. It's okay, I guess. I do think it sets up the mood of the album, at least pretty accurately, just in the melodies that it displays. They're kind of like bright, but they're droning at the same time. It is an interesting blend of sounds, and I do like how they put this track at least at the start of the album, so that way once you get past it, the album never fully feels like it loses momentum, which maybe is something that a track like this would kind of do to a record if it was in the middle. As far as the arrangement, the way the album kicks off with the first two proper tracks being my two personal favorites, I think has its benefits and its drawbacks. Because for one, it really does start the album off with a bang. But when you get those first two tracks followed by As Long as the Twilight Stays, which, like I said, is probably the weakest song on here, the album never fully feels like it regains that emotional momentum that the first three tracks established. There's definitely moments and glimpses of it here and there, but the emotional intensity really just feels like it tapers off after track 3. But, I mean, there's nothing on this album that I would say is bad. On the production front, I do think the album is produced really, really well. The guitar tone in particular is just real mean. It has this awesome crunch to it that may be absent from some Melodeath releases. So the riffs do really hit hard. And same with the lead guitar, too. Not only is it produced really well, but I would argue that the lead guitar is the driving force of pretty much the entire record, and that's a compliment. A lot of these songs are very adventurous in their song structures, except, maybe the one example I gave that gets a little repetitive. Aside from that, the album is really structurally unpredictable, which I enjoy. Again, I absolutely love their use of clean vocals, which, once again, are performed and produced very well. And the harsh vocals, too, they're performed and produced really well. They sound really, really mean and vicious and full-sounding the entire record. So yeah, despite a few criticisms, I did really enjoy this record. The band has definitely gained themselves a new fan here. I think for their next record, I might just encourage the band to be a little bit more adventurous in its structure. Maybe bring in even more of the prog elements, which might have been a little underutilized here, and keep doing what they're doing with the clean vocals especially. This album gets a 24 out of 30 for me. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you've heard this album, please comment below your thoughts on it. I'd love to hear it. Remember to hit subscribe for more rock and metal-related content and album reviews. Check the description for all my links, including one to my original music. And yeah, once again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys later. Peace.